I'm Róisín. I'm going to be talking a bit today about Formula Student, specifically my kind of journey through it. I think my presentation is a bit more focused on one society, like Rihanna's again, because I am very boring and got very obsessed quickly with Formula Student. But yeah, so just a bit about what this kind of talk will cover. I think my presentation is a bit flipped. I'll probably focus a bit more on like what Formula Student is and how it can kind of further your career if you get involved first. And then I'll go a bit more into like my own involvement. How has it kind of impacted me over the last couple of years? How is it going to impact my future? And sort of where else Formula Student can help you out. So yeah, I'll just hop right in. A bit about who I am. So I'm in my fourth year right now of air mechanical engineering at Strathclyde. I don't have a slide on my high school life, unfortunately, because there was not a lot of engineering involved with it. I think prior to uni, the only thing that I was really getting involved with was breaking a lot of Arduinos in my room. So I wasn't 100% sure on what I wanted to do. I did physics and maths in high school. I did a lot of art. So I kind of thought, I know that I want to make things, I want to learn how things work, and that's about it. So I just kind of jumped in there and saw like what societies were available when I first started out in uni. And Formula Student was pretty appealing to me because even though I knew nothing about cars, I did not watch Formula One, I had no interest in cars. It seemed to be a society that had a lot of like hands-on work available, and something you'd get to like design parts on a car for, and that was pretty appealing to me. So as you can see, I stuck around and I did quite a lot of different jobs over the years. I started off as an electrical team member, which is pretty different from my aero course, but it was something I really enjoyed. I really like working on like electrical systems. And then I moved on to do chief engineer for wheel assembly. I was tech director for our first ever year of electric vehicle development, which is something that I was pushing for since first year. So that was super exciting. And I'm now team manager, so kind of full circle. And yeah, I'll go a little bit into about what Formula Student actually is, just for anyone who wasn't really aware of what we do, and what the competitions actually involve. So basically, a brief breakdown, it is the biggest international engineering design competition. There are competitions held all over the world, like in Formula Student India, there's a couple in America, China, all over Europe. So they're really international. And the aim is basically for universities to have a team that will design, manufacture, market, and race a single-seater Formula style race car. There's three different kind of like classes. There's combustion, or just using an engine. We've had that for 20 years. And electric, which is what the team is moving into. And that little graph there basically has a breakdown of what the kind of competition involves. There's a couple of different events in green that are where the car actually runs. You get to see it race. And then there's kind of like some static events where you'll kind of market the car as a business. You'll cost the car, lots of different events like that. So it's pretty involved from different areas. And yeah, and I'll go a little bit into what it can kind of give you experience in if you decide to try the team out. So design is basically where I think people will pick up the most skills as an engineer. I definitely did. You basically will be accelerating your learning from first year, especially if you get involved with the team early on, which I did. I was involved basically from my first week. So you'll be getting hands-on with software that you might not normally get to kind of get experience with until your third or fourth year of uni. And it might seem quite daunting at the start because I went in there knowing absolutely nothing. I hadn't even used CAD before. A lot of people have, but that wasn't a software that I'd ever had a chance to kind of get involved with. So that was brand new to me. But you know, we run loads of new member sessions. You're pointed in the direction of lots of different tutorials. There's always older engineers that'll be able to help you out. And yeah, it's a great chance to kind of get applicable skills that even out with your course as well, like you might be able to get hands-on with software that you might normally not even touch, depending on what you're kind of doing and what system you're working in. So that was kind of a lot of help for me. And then manufacture, which I think most people who join the team are kind of drawn into just from how we sort of market it. But yeah, regardless of what year you're in or what degree you do or anything, everybody sort of gets involved from the start, whether that's just filing tubes or doing composite layups. We make most of the car ourselves in-house. So that was by far the most exciting thing for me, because before uni, I had really had like no experience working with this kind of stuff. And 4 years later, I was being trained to weld. I was getting to turn on a lathe. I was getting to do composite layups. All these kind of like skills and experiences might not be super applicable to your day-to-day job if you're like an engineer in industry. But what I found is that it basically gave me a better understanding of how to make parts that are actually machinable. Because a lot of the time people will design stuff and it won't actually be able to be manufactured because they've not thought like, how am I going to make that in a reasonable way that's within my budget and within my scope and that will get here on time. So yeah, it's a lot of fun just learning how to do stuff like welding, and also it's really applicable to just general engineering in my opinion. And then there's also networking, which is a huge part of Formula Student. And I think Callum had mentioned in his talk as well, but basically any society you're involved in will give you access to quite a bit of funding. And we're definitely included in that. We're very fortunate. The uni is quite generous with funding, but we would not be able to make the car without a whole host of sponsors, which are, I think, listed in that wee graphic there on the left. So marketing and sponsor liaison is like a really big part of the team success. And even just being able to like manage your own emails and run meetings and turning up to networking events and all that kind of stuff, you're going to be developing quite a lot of professional skills, soft skills, just working with different people in different industries. Getting to meet people along the way was really exciting for me. And you do a bit of networking at competition as well. There's always sponsor companies there, and meeting people from other teams and all that is just great for building up a sort of contact base, I found. And then the final bit is just competition. So competing is the reason that you do it. You know, it's a couple of weekends a year, depending on how many comps you go to. We'll normally compete at the track at Silverstone for Formula Student UK, and then we'll also normally go to a European competition. So we've competed at Hockenheim track, and we've competed at one in the Netherlands as well. You're competing against hundreds of other unis and getting to see what they come up with and how their car differs from yours, how they've interpreted the rules differently, how they deal with a different budget. It's always really, really interesting. Like just being able to walk around pits and talk to other people and, oh, why have you made your wing like that? Or have you set up your suspension? Like it's a lot of fun and it's a really good community. Everyone's really kind of open to just chat about what they've been doing because we're all passionate and we all have no lives outside Formula Student. So, you know, quite a bit of time on the car. And yeah, and actually getting to see it race and see all your work pay off is just, it's the best part. It's the best experience. So next I'll talk a bit more about kind of my own journey. And I kind of wanted to clear up a perception with this talk that I think I've heard from a lot of people who have either heard of Formula Student and they kind of want to give it a go, or they're thinking about giving it a go, but they don't know if they've got enough experience. I'd heard a lot from my friends on my course saying, oh, I'm not good enough, like I couldn't keep up with that. I don't know anything about it. And my journey started off with this picture, which I debated putting in, but I thought it was worth putting it there. And I'm sure most people in this Zoom call will be able to tell there's something wrong here. This was my first, I think it was my first day in the lab, my first week definitely of doing stuff for Formula Student. And as you can see, there's a lot of mistakes. There's a wee clue. I could go on for days about how problematic this photo is. We've got like a backwards nut. I remember to put spacers on, but they're both on one side, so useless. The tabs are in bending. There's a bunch of different stuff that's gone wrong here, but the point I wanted to make isn't, oh, I was a terrible engineer in first year, because I was in first year and no one knows what to do. You know, some people come into the lab, myself included, who've never picked up a spanner, who, you know, have no interest in cars, and there's nothing wrong with that. So how did I basically go from this to being able to be more involved with the team, sticking out for 4 years, and eventually ending up team manager? Yeah, so in my first year, like I mentioned, I was mainly involved with electrical, so I got to get very hands-on with loom design. That's a photo of our first sort of team in first year. That is unfortunately me in the car dabbing. There is no other better photo I could find, so I'm sorry in advance. But yeah, getting to grips with just getting to know the team and being comfortable in the lab, being able to come in and ask for work without being intimidated, and just like getting to grips with all the different processes and stuff was mainly what I did in first year. I did design stuff for our dashboard, for a data acquisition loom, and it also gave me the chance to kind of explore what did I really enjoy doing on the car. And I was drawn a bit more towards unsprung, a bit more mechanical work towards my second year. So in my second year, I was a chief engineer for wheel assembly. So yeah, I mean, the main reason I kind of chose it was I think that it has arguably some of the most complex machine parts on the car. And I kind of wanted to understand more about them and like how are they designed and how could I design them. So I can't take full credit for all the parts in that photo. They do look very nice. I didn't design the hub, but I did redesign the entire brake system that year. So and that was something that I had never touched before. But to me, it was just kind of like applying a lot of stuff that I'd learned from Heat and Flow, doing a lot of Google, a lot of YouTube tutorials, a lot of asking people for help. And yeah, it was seeing it actually on track and seeing it pass brake tests was just, it was so rewarding, and it just got me completely addicted. And I kind of realized like, this is all I want to do now is work for this car and stuff like that. And I also realized that year that I was really desperate to try and get the team to consider an EV powertrain, or just fully electric vehicle, basically. And it was mainly for me driven by the fact that I thought it'd be better for our performance. Some people think, there's obviously the whole thing about EV cars being the future. Competitions were kind of favoring EV cars in terms of rules, but also according to like some basic lap sims that we run, it was looking like it was going to be faster. So I pitched it basically that summer, and the team had a majority vote went out. So in my third year, I was tech director for EV, which was really, really exciting. That was basically designing a car from the ground up, or at least starting the process, so that the rest of the team could get involved as well with the different systems. I was getting to have grips with a lot of like new vehicle dynamics parameters I hadn't really had to consider before. Basically learning more about how we could implement an EV powertrain, doing a lot of cell testing, like in that photo there. Unfortunately, there's no photo of us looking all chuffed in front of a car because COVID kind of ruined that for us that year. So we never got to finish the final combustion car. This was like year one of EV R&D, and we were hoping to sort of bring the second year into when we'd actually make it. We did not expect to be trying to make our first ever electric car in a pandemic, because that has proved to be pretty difficult, but definitely exciting and very challenging, which is the best part of Formula Student anyway. So and yeah, in my fourth year, which is this year, everything's been online, obviously. I've been team manager this year, so it's been a bit less technical and a bit more just getting to grips with project management and a lot of like managing scope. And obviously, because everything's online, that's been kind of a new challenge as well. But we've managed to get through it pretty well. We've been outsourcing a lot of our work to sponsors. Getting to see the first EV car design come together has just been such a fantastic experience. And I even got the chance to kind of do some non-car related stuff because of USM. I worked with a local makerspace this summer as well to kind of produce PPE and design equipment to produce PPE for COVID-19 key workers. I think we made like over 1,000 visors and that. So that was really, really rewarding. And it was just something that came about because of USM, even though it had nothing to do with cars or anything like that. So it is something that I want to stress, is that first and foremost, this is an engineering design club. It's not a car or motorsport club, even though we market ourselves as that. So yeah, and I thought like I put a slide in about like how Formula Student is kind of impacting my current work and hopefully future work. So I'm in my dissertation year. I've had the chance, because of USM and a sponsor that we've had, to be able to carry out some work for a composite related dissertation that I'm doing. And I've also been really fortunate to get a placement next year with Aston Martin Formula One team in their engine system. So I'm starting that in September, so I can't really talk much about it because all I've been doing is signing NDAs and stuff for it so far. But what I can say is that basically Formula Student has been the main thing that I've been talking about in interviews, and I'm sure that's the same for anyone who's involved in any kind of club, whether that's this or something like handprints or anything at all, like having this sort of extracurricular experience is really what makes you a better engineer, in my opinion. It gives you something outside your course and something to sort of build on. And it's also kind of helped me decide what area of work I want to focus on. And it's made me realize that like that changes a lot. Because when I first started, I was like really interested in specifically electrical and aero stuff, which is quite a weird combo, I suppose. And I kind of thought I wanted to work in like space. That was something that I was just passionate about. And I didn't really have too much of an interest in cars. And then I got completely hooked, and now I really, really am looking forward to starting to see what life in F1 is about. So I think it's kind of made me realize what I sort of want to focus on, which is just working in a really challenging, exciting environment. But I thought it was worth also saying, I've been saying before, this isn't just a society for people who like cars or F1. A lot of our alumni will also go on to work in like a bunch of different companies. We have people working in defense sector and machining, in power, in F1 and automotive as well. But it's first and foremost a society that will give you experience in engineering design as a discipline, and a bunch of other soft skills. And yeah, it's just something that I think has really enhanced my overall kind of university experience and has made me realize everything that I really enjoy about engineering, I would say. So yeah, I think that's sort of everything on my end. So although yeah, should also say shameless plug. If you want to keep up with what the team's up to, we are across social media and we have a website. So give us a follow if you're interested. And yeah, cheers for listening, and thank you for having me today. Thanks for the talks earlier as well. They're really cool.